Hey, this is Ermy Pedata from thelanguageverse.com, and thank you for listening to this mini audiobook called How Learning a Language Can Change Your Life. I am speaking to you in my second language, English. My native tongue is in fact Italian, and in this audiobook I share my story about how learning another language positively impacted my life and opened me up to a new world of life-changing experiences and amazing people. Nowadays, even though I can speak 5 different languages, Italian, Neapolitan, English, Spanish, and French, and I have also been teaching some of these languages over the past 5 years, I've had my own struggles with them. In this audiobook, you'll hear my story about how challenging it was for me to learn my first second language, English, and how I got through my first conversations even though I was terrified of speaking and making mistakes. You'll hear some snippets of other people's stories as well, other language learners around the globe whose life has been actually transformed just because one day they decided to learn a language. If you're listening to this audiobook, you may have already decided to learn a language too, because there's something that you want to do, to be, or have that you can only get by knowing how to speak that language fluently. Maybe you want to learn that language to be more deeply connected with someone you love, whose native tongue is different from yours, or you want to get a specific job, or experience the freedom of traveling in a foreign country and connecting with people you meet on the way, or you just have this dream that would come true if only you spoke that language fluently. Well, I am here to tell you that you can definitely do this. Learning to speak a second language in order to make your dreams come true can be one of the most transformative and rewarding lifelong learning journey you've ever embarked on. And here is how mine has been. January 2004. I had a plan. My plan was to drop university where I was studying languages and just dedicate myself to study art because I wanted to become a freelance illustrator or a cartoonist. Back then, in addition to studying languages at the University of Naples in Italy, where I was born, I was also commuting from Naples to Rome 3 times a week to study at an art academy in Rome to become a professional cartoonist. Doing these 2 things together at the same time revealed to be fairly time-consuming and pretty overwhelming. So I thought, you know what? I don't really need the languages. I want to become a cartoonist, not a translator. I don't even know why I'm here studying this. Also, all the people in my course, they are so far ahead than me. I didn't do a language high school like they did. I should not be here. I'm not good enough. And so, I quit. Then one day, one of my friends, Maria, who was an artist like me, advised me to put my art on a website called DeviantART. Ermy, you got to try this. It's so cool. It will give you visibility, she said. So I went on the website and Maria was right. I loved it. DeviantArt was an amazing art community to be in. I soon had my page up with all my artworks and everyone could have a look at them and comment on them and put likes. It was a sort of social media for artists when social media did not really exist yet. However, I soon realized that there was one drawback. DeviantArt was an American website, and a huge amount of people on that website spoke English to communicate with each other, whereas I was only speaking Italian and I was only writing all my artwork captions in Italian and just commenting on Italian artists' work because, as you know, I didn't really understand English back then. So I had 2 choices really. Either just keep writing in Italian and just reach a limited amount of people, or start to expand my audience and start to writing all my artwork descriptions and captions and posts in English as well. Now I got to be honest, as I was secretly planning for world domination as an artist, I decided to quickly dust off my very basic English skills and start writing in English. Ironically, languages were making their way back to my life, word by word, sentence by sentence, post by post, and a lot of wordreference.com in the middle, the free online dictionary I was using to write all my stuff. All this writing in another language kinda rekindled my interests for foreign languages. I realized that I actually really liked communicating in another language or try to communicate with it. I liked the creativity and the challenge of trying to express what you mean with the few words that you have. I liked translating and finding out new words and discovering the differences in their meaning. In other words, I was a word nerd. And then regret started kicking in. I started to think, what if I had not dropped uni? What if I hadn't actually quit languages? Fast forward 3 years, I successfully completed my art training and decided to walk back into that same university I had left 3 years earlier to study languages again. Of course, I made sure to choose the most widespread languages, English and Spanish, so that they would help me in my plan for world domination. And so here I was studying languages again, this time much more motivated and with a lot more enthusiasm. I would spend hours learning grammar and doing translations and doing phonetic transcriptions and learn linguistics. I would attend all classes, even the extra ones. I felt I was doing pretty good actually. However, there was one thing I was not really good at. Actually, I was terrible at it. And this thing was speaking. I could communicate okay in writing. I could understand what I was reading. My listening skills were kind of okay too. But when it came to speak either English or Spanish, I was actually speechless. The truth is, I was terrified of making mistakes. I remember hiding myself in the conversation classes because I was scared of being asked a question. And at the same time, I was aware that I was actually repressing inside me the urge of speaking because, after all, I really wanted to speak that language or at least try to speak it. Then one day, after having slowly spoken my way through my first and very much dreaded English speaking exam, the teacher said to me, Ermy, your English is not bad at all. You just need to stop worrying about making mistakes and develop your confidence in speaking it. Her words echoed in my brain. Confidence in speaking English without being afraid of making mistakes. Yeah, okay, but how do you do that? How do you develop the confidence of speaking a language that is not yours? And without being afraid of making mistakes? Well, the answer was easily said than done. You develop that confidence by doing the actual thing that you're scared of over and over again until you repeat it so many times that you're not scared of doing it anymore. So here's what I did. On my second year at university, I applied for the Erasmus program, which, if you don't know it, it's a program that allows you to spend between 3 and 12 months in a foreign university and continue your studies there. And I chose to go to the UK for 6 months. My university of choice? The University of Warwick. The reason why I chose it? Because I liked the name and I couldn't pronounce it. I thought, once I'm in the UK, I have no choice. I will have to develop this confidence of speaking English because I'll just have to speak it. if I want to survive. When you make bold choices, the universe always shows the way. And here I was, sitting at my first class at Warwick University, the only exchange student in a class with all English native speakers. And the teacher is just about to give us a task. And the task is to prepare a presentation of 15 minutes on a topic of choice to be done in front of the class. As soon as the teacher gives us the task, he quickly turns towards me and says, "Oh, you don't worry, I'll give you something else to do. I understand you just arrived." Clearly, he wanted to try to help me because he knew that, I just came there to learn English. So doing a presentation would be too hard for me. However, I had to honor my choice of doing whatever I could to develop my confidence in speaking English. And this is why I said to him, "You don't worry, I will do it." Over those 6 months of work uni, I proactively looked for every opportunity to develop my language skills. I volunteered to help during shows and festivals, and I started attending my first salsa classes. I took a creative writing class in English, and I was also an active member of the Language Society, where I help other university students who wanted to learn other languages, including my native tongue, Italian. And this is how I developed even more my passion for languages, and I also found out that I loved teaching languages, which actually is what I do for a living today. Nowadays, I am extremely grateful for having pursued my passion for languages. So far, I have learned English, Spanish, French, and recently I also been learning Japanese. In 2016, after a few years teaching in secondary schools, I decided to go on my own teaching journey and created a website called The Language Rose. The reason why I created it was to help lifelong learners and enthusiastic travelers to learn the language they love. The language rose, just like the wind rose used by mariners, symbolizes all the languages I can speak and the different life paths I have explored in my life thanks to these languages. This language learning journey has brought me to so many places and to so many people, and have given me so many opportunities that have actually changed my life. If I had not chosen to go back to university that day after I finished my art school, maybe now I would have a very different life. If I hadn't chosen to study languages, maybe I wouldn't have moved to another country or found my passion for teaching. Maybe I wouldn't even be here speaking to you in English. But more importantly, learning languages taught me so much more. Learning another language has taught me to be courageous because it takes courage to walk up to someone and have your first conversation in your second language when you only know a few words. And it also takes courage to do a whole audiobook in your second language, like this one, and distribute it to people you don't even know, hoping to inspire them to learn languages like you did. Learning another language has taught me to celebrate mistakes as stepping stones towards success, because when you're learning how to speak a language, the more mistakes you make, the more you learn. Learning another language has allowed me to develop the empathy and respect I needed to build beautiful relationships with people that come from a country different from mine, who have become friends for life, and who I wouldn't have met otherwise. And finally, learning another language taught me to welcome and face challenges and enjoy the confidence that comes from overcoming them. This is why I really believe that learning a language can change your life, because it changes your way to look at life. And this isn't just my opinion. In 2018, I set off on a quest to find other people, other language learners around the world whose life has been positively transformed by language learning. And I found out about people like Michelle Frolla from Australia, who started to learn Italian and decided one day to move to Italy, and wrote to me, "It was my love for Italian that made me want to switch my life in Australia for living in Italy. I lived in Rome for 3 years and I did a lot of growing up. I became more confident and independent. Being able to speak Italian helped me to make friends with people who I would never had the chance to meet otherwise." Michelle nowadays is a successful travel blogger at theintrepidguide.com. In addition to interviewing Michelle, I also found out about people like Fran Norris, who decided to learn Sicilian, an endangered language, because she desired to create stronger bonds with her relatives in Sicily. However, that was just the beginning for her. By learning Sicilian, Fran not only managed to develop a stronger relationship with her family, but she also became part of a language learning community that has allowed her to make friends with people from all around the world. She said to me, "Learning Italian and Sicilian has enriched my life, but also my husband's life. Our mornings start listening to Italian radio and daydreaming of one day moving there. You got to dream big, something that I never thought of doing," she said. And finally, I also had the opportunity to speak to people like Christina, who is an aspiring polyglot and for whom learning a language was a way to claim her life hers. This is what Christina wrote to me when asked how learning a language impacted her life. She wrote, "Learning languages changed my mindset and my mental health. I used to do bad things to myself, and learning languages helped me to cope with this and also keeps me distracted from really horrible thoughts. Learning languages gives me a reason to keep fighting to get my life together. It might seem weird, but languages are a huge part of my life. And if I didn't have this life anymore, I couldn't enjoy languages anymore." Christina nowadays is still learning languages, and she is documenting her language learning journey on Instagram at Polyglossa. My story and the stories of these people I had the opportunity to speak to are testament to the fact that learning a new skill like a language can lead you to something bigger and greater that has the potential to really transform your life. So the question I want to leave you with today is this: what could you start learning today that may have the potential to change your life? What could you start doing that you're scared of that would allow you to challenge yourself? And if you did, who might you become? And if the answer to this question scares you a little bit, then I can tell you, you are on the right track. And please don't spend even 1 second thinking, "I can't really do that," because the truth is that you can do it as long as you want to do it. So face your fear, take up the challenge, and go do it, because that could be your gateway to a more fulfilled and joyful life. This is what learning a language was for me. Learning a language was a way to challenge myself, face my fears, and eventually grow. So now it's your turn to start doing or learning something that will allow you to do the same. I'm cheering you on. You just listened to my mini audiobook, How to Learn a Language Can Change Your Life. Thank you so much for listening. Your attention really means the world to me. If you enjoyed this free audiobook, please share it with your friends and family. It's completely free. And if you'd like to find out more about the stories of the people I mentioned in this audiobook, go to thelanguagerose.com. Over there, you will also find articles, videos, my classes and workshops to help you master your second language. I hope this audiobook inspired you to start learning or keep learning another language. And above all, I hope it inspires you to start speaking it even though you've not completely mastered it. Remember, the key to learning a second language is to start speaking it as soon as you start learning it. And if you make a mistake, or 2, or even 10, well, that's okay, because the more mistakes you make, the more you learn. Happy language learning, my friend!